And let's talk about the incredible weekend and the incredible homestand of the New York Mets. I mean, the Phillies are really, really good. They're going to win the National League East, and the Mets beat them 3 out of 4. So they go into Atlanta with a 2-game lead and a 3-game series that starts tomorrow. Now, there is a little bit of concerning news. I don't know if you saw this, Don, but there's a hurricane that's going to blow through Atlanta, and it's supposed to flood Atlanta with rain on Thursday. So Major League Baseball is going to have to consider maybe preemptively having a doubleheader on Wednesday. The last thing you really want is a doubleheader, although that might work in the Mets' favor because it's really tough to sweep doubleheaders. So
it is.
We'll see if Major League Baseball actually does that. So it might be bad for Atlanta.
I think, well, it's the reason having the 2-game lead still, which I didn't think was on the table. You did, because I thought, oh, listen, the Phillies are really good, maybe one of the best teams in baseball. Mets dropped 2 out of 3 against them in Philadelphia.
And you thought the Marlins were awful.
And but the Marlins did take a game from the Braves, and the Mets did get off the mat after a tough Friday where they got blown out 12-2 and won just 2 enthralling games, which gives you really a good feel about this team, Michael, because those are playoff games. Playoff atmosphere, sold out on Saturday, sold out on Sunday, gave up early leads in both, and they find a way to be able to not only win the game, but hold on with a spectacular performance by Diaz. In this day and age, Michael, this was nothing for Mariano Rivera. This was nothing for Goose Gossage. Go out there and every night close out. But to be able in this day and age to get a 4-out save and a 6-out save back-to-back nights, that really says something. That was big. They understood the importance of getting those games. It could have been so deflating to lose either of those 2 games, especially last night. And they get the win. And, again, there's something going on with this team, Michael. Now, you might have been in the air, but I'm sure you saw the recap.
The ball off third base?
Ball off of third base, Michael. That
goes into left field 100 times out of 101.
Excellent, and especially against this team, especially with this team, goes in the left field, tying run scores, Mets losing extra innings, and it's a deflating loss for the team. Instead, I don't know if you saw it, Peter, bounces off the third base bag. Vientos is able to gather it up before the Castellanos scores, and he gets stranded at third. It's like one of those moments. It's like the 1969 moment. It's the fly ball off the top of the wall. It's the black cat in front of Leo DeRocher and the Chicago Cubs. I can't explain it, Michael, but the things that go wrong for this team historically are going right for them this year. The Alonzo RBI for insurance on Saturday, the pop-up that's not fielded. Like little things are starting to go for this team. And they've got confidence, and they feel good about themselves. That Nimmo home run, Michael, was colossally big. And he might end up leading the team in RBIs. He's got 87 RBIs. Alonzo's got 88. So things are happening with this team right now that makes you feel like they got a little something going on. Now, they got to take care of business in Atlanta. But by having the 2-game lead, even if they were to lose that series to the Braves, they'd still come out of it with a 1-game lead. And then we'll see what happens with Milwaukee. Will the Brewers need those games? So I like the way they're playing right now. I like the way the starting pitching's going, but I especially like that Diaz came up so huge. So for all those saves and all those moments 2 years ago, Michael, I don't think there were anything as big as those 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, for the New York Mets and what Diaz was able to do, getting those all-important outs to be able to get those wins.
All right, so let me throw this at you because I was thinking about, playoff placement. I mean, they're not in yet, but, if they do their business in Atlanta, they will be. Right now, they're tied with Arizona for the second wild card, and the Braves are on the outside looking in. So it's San Diego first, Mets and Diamondbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I think it benefits the Mets, and you can't arrange it this way, but I'm just thinking out loud to finish with the third wild card. I would much rather face Atlanta. I'd much rather face Milwaukee than go all the way to San Diego and face a Padre team that's really, really good. A lot of people think the Padres could go to the World Series. So I think it's better for the Mets to finish third and face Milwaukee.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, right? You hate doing that, and then you get the team you wanted and you end up losing. But also, logistically, if it ends up being Milwaukee, you don't leave. You're playing the Brewers the last 3 games of the year, and then you just stay there and then play them on Tuesday.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd have to now get on a plane, fly from Milwaukee to San Diego to play 3 games. So I think the way that they're playing, you shouldn't be scared of anybody. But logistically, it might be better. And also this, Michael, I think this could be fodder for later in the week. If you go into the Milwaukee series where you clinch a playoff spot, but 2 and 1 are still up for grabs for the wild card, I think if I got a chance to set my rotation for that series, then that's what I do, and not worry about the last couple of games in the Milwaukee series. Not that I want to play the Brewers more than the San Diego, but if I can get my rotation set, then I think that's what I would rather do. So wouldn't it be better, Michael, to go in and just have a starter or pitch an opener or pitch somebody that you normally wouldn't start, just so that I can have my rotation set for that for that wild card series, rather than fight to move up and then maybe wreck my rotation?
Well, the only way I would fight to move up would be if I could get the number 1 seed and have the games at Citi Field. But second and third, it means nothing. I wouldn't care.
Yeah, now, and again, there's pitfalls for both. Milwaukee's a great team, and the Mets had trouble with them earlier in the year. Actually, the Mets won the season series against San Diego, but and you can get avenged from 2 years ago when you lost that series at Citi Field to the Padres. But if you ask me who I'd rather face, I think I'd rather face the Brewers. But, ask me that after you played them 3 games, especially if all 3 of those games are meaningful. Now, Manaea pitched on Saturday. I mean, that's the guy you think you'd want to line up for your Game 1 starter. If he pitched Saturday, then that means he'd be eligible to pitch on Thursday. So it wouldn't matter. He wouldn't be available for the Milwaukee series unless you decided to hold him back for the Milwaukee series. So we'll have to see how these games in Atlanta go. Now, if there is a doubleheader on Wednesday, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Manaea wouldn't be available for Wednesday. So then that would mean he'd have to pitch the first game of the Milwaukee series and make himself unavailable, I guess. Because the first game of the Milwaukee series would be Friday.
Then Saturday, Monday.
Yeah, he would be available for Game 1 on Tuesday. So we'll see how it all works itself out. But
you would agree, though, Michael? Would you agree at this point, though? This Met team, the magic has almost been so magical that coming up short at this point, whether that means somehow not getting in or getting immediately bounced, I'm sorry, guys, it doesn't feel like house is money anymore.
No, especially not the wild card.
No.
You don't do all this to get bounced in the first round. Now, if you were to lose a really hard-fought series against the Dodgers and the Phillies, maybe you'd have to see how that worked itself out. But no. The way they're playing right now, I would be very disappointed if they were to lose in the wild card round to any of those 3 teams, Milwaukee, Arizona, or San Diego, however it would work itself out. I would be disappointed. Now, you advance from there, and then you see what ends up happening. But the way they played the Phillies, why wouldn't you be able to think you couldn't beat the Dodgers or the Phillies?
Right.
But it's definitely an upgrade, Michael, right? I mean, these wild card teams are what they are. I mean, Padres are a good team, but the Dodgers are better. The Diamondbacks, Brave, these are all good teams, but the division winners, Philadelphia and Los Angeles, let's leave Milwaukee out, they're in another level.
But I believe that San Diego's starting pitching is way better than the Dodgers. Way better.
Well, especially now with the injuries.
I mean, they have nobody. I mean, really. I guess you have Flaherty and Yamamoto, I think, is going to be able to pitch, and he pitched very, very well when he came back off the IL. But they're going to have to piece it together. Everybody's hurt.
Hey. Well, everything's tough. I mean, it's hard to win, and we'll see how it all shakes down. But right now, they've been the best team in baseball, Michael. I think that still holds. Since May 30th. I mean, this is a long time now that the Mets have been playing at an unbelievable level. And to win those 2 games the way they did against Philadelphia, listen, the Phillies needed those games, but they obviously have a margin for error. They know they're winning the division. But, Michael, watching those games, I got a sense that Philadelphia wanted to win those games. It's a rival. They wanted to clinch. They wanted to get this all out of the way, and yet couldn't. So And that building, Michael, as much as we said, why is there only 21,000 people, 24,000 people for that series against the Nationals? They showed up. It was the most attended 4-game series in the history of Citi Field. Saturday and Sunday were sold out. And Michael, I watched both of the games. There were Philly fans, but they didn't take over the building as some Philly fans were suggesting would happen. And that was emotional last night. The ovation they gave Alonzo the first at bat. The ovation they gave him in what could be his final at-bat at Citi Field there in the bottom of the 8th inning with the signs as made you feel like, hey, maybe they do love this guy. Maybe they do want to see him come back. That was the first time, Michael, that I felt like there was a connection, a real visceral connection with Pete Alonso.
And don't you think that, like,
that matters?
Think about it from this standpoint, too, and I wonder how much this would affect Mets brass. Some sort of run for Pete in the playoffs where he has like a really big, memorable playoff moment. That could really elevate what he means to people. I mean, guys, how often do we hear about it from Yankee fans and Judge? And Judge is the greatest player of the last 5 years. And all it seems like Yankee fans want are playoff moments. Pete hasn't had that opportunity yet.
And I know who his agent is, so I'm not going to play that game where, I'll have one set of rules for Alonzo and another set of rules for Soto. They have the same agent. So the same thing applies. It's going to be about the money. But, Michael, if everything is equal, we say that Soto will probably lean towards the Yankees. If everything is equal, I would think Alonzo would lean towards the Mets.
I agree.
He's had a history here, the connection with the fans that you feel, a possibility of another run. He talked about how they didn't get a chance to celebrate going to the playoffs 2 years ago because it wasn't about making the playoffs, Peter. It was about how they blew the lead to the Braves, so they felt like they limped into the playoffs, didn't have their moment. If they're able to get into the playoffs and they have that, Fugazi celebration that all the baseball teams have, that'll be the first time Alonso's experienced that. And is that something that if everything ends up being equal or it's $1 million here or there, will he end up leaning towards staying? And to your point, will Cohen maybe decide to go a little bit more than he wants to make Alonso stay?
Yeah, but well-run organizations can't let, recency bias get them. If they think that he's part of their, if he fits into what they're doing, then they should sign him. Because, Hideki Matsui won the MVP in 2009. And they let him go as a free agent. I mean, that's just the way business is done. Look what the Mets did with Ray Knight. They let him go as a free agent.
But let me push back. If Alonzo were to come up big in the playoffs, it's more than recency bias. It is unlocking a new part of him that you haven't seen previously.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like being a playoff performer is that's not just recency bias. That's a thing.
And also, we can all agree that Alonzo's had an off year. That could still be 35 and 90. So if that's an off year, that's a pretty good year for a lot. And he's not a butcher at first. He's not an A-plus defender at first base, but I think he's gotten a little bit better. And I thought this was supposed to be the difference between the Wilpons and Steve Cohen, where I can go out and get Soto. I can go out and maybe give a contract extension to Severino, be able to give a contract extension to Minaya, and still be able to bring Alonzo back. So I understand they're very well run. Stearns, I think, is proven by giving up on Beatty and giving the job to Vientos, by going out and making the moves that he made during the course of the year, that he is a very good executive. But can you also be a really good executive that, as an owner, that'll decide to maybe go the extra mile? Remember, Cashman didn't want to spend money on Teixeira back in the day, but then Steinbrenner ponied up the extra money for them to get Teixeira. So both could be true, right? I want to be fiscally responsible. I don't think Alonzo fits what I want to do, but the owner's willing to go the extra mile, so I think we can make that work.